Get ready for Benjamin Knight Fuchs Live.
Hey, Liam.
Ben,
Good to see you, buddy.
how are you, my man?
I'm doing good. So, we're going to talk about the Mediterranean diet. I'm sure you've heard of it.
Yes,
Being Mediterranean yourself. I think you're
the
Mediterranean.
famous Mediterranean. I am
Look,
Mediterranean.
I have Mediterranean roots myself. So, the Mediterranean diet's actually been around for a long time, as long as they've had the countries around the Mediterranean, which is many thousands of years. The first great empires were around the Mediterranean,
Yes.
right? So the Greek Empire, the Cretan Empire, the Minoan Empire. Who else? The Phoenicians. I think the Phoenicians they've been a little off the Mediterranean. But the Mediterranean diet has been around forever, but it wasn't really popularized and made an official diet until this guy named Ansel Keys came around. Ansel Keys is famous for his cholesterol hypothesis. He's the guy who came up with the idea that cholesterol is the bad guy.
Yes.
Right? Ansel Keys. So he's also credited with developing the official Mediterranean diet, which took its inspiration from the kind of foods that they ate in Greece and Italy and Crete and Minoa and all the countries around the Mediterranean, which includes Spain and Portugal, I believe. And I think you have Portuguese. Didn't you tell me you have a Portuguese heritage?
I am Italiano,
Italiano.
and
Okay, good.
yes, and
So then you know all about the Mediterranean diet, which is basically a plant. Well, it's a plant-based diet, but it does have things like cheese, yogurt, of course, fish. There is some meat in the Mediterranean diet. Olive oil, of course, and olive oil has a reputation for being a very medicinal oil. It contains lots of
yes,
medicinal compounds, antibacterial compounds, compounds that help lower cholesterol and are important for heart health. Olive oil is also longevity and a longevity aid, and it's been studied as a factor for reducing mortality and the risk of diseases. And of course, olive oil is a mainstay of the Mediterranean diet. And the Mediterranean diet in general, in observational studies, has been shown to be associated with a reduction in what they call all-cause mortality. And people who enjoy the Mediterranean diet, at least locally in the Mediterranean, are known for not being obese and being lean and mean. I don't know how much you could attribute that to the diet, but certainly some of that anti-obesity, some of the anti-obesity reputation that the Mediterranean folks enjoy has to be related to their diet. They also have a reduced risk of things like diabetes and cancer and cardiovascular disease in general, which of course are the three leading causes of death in this country. So there's a lot of reasons to believe that the Mediterranean diet might be something that we want to at least incorporate into our diets some of the time. And what got my attention was this article. Pull up the first article here. This came out from Medscape for Pharmacists just this week, or last week actually. Mediterranean diet may cut risk for obesity-related cancers. Cancers are, in general, cancers are going up, especially among young people, but particularly those that are related to obesity. So this got my attention. On the next slide. This is the role of Mediterranean diet for helping folks deal with cognitive issues, dementias, cognitive impairment, Alzheimer's disease. And this was an article that concluded, I got to find it here, Mr. Liam. Actually, I don't see it here. Pull it up just a little bit, just a hair. You read this, just a hair higher. Significant. Yeah, they say here. Where was this here? Significant heterogeneity. That means cross studies suggest a sample size just an 11 to 30% reduction in the risk of age-related cognitive disorders. That's pretty significant, including cognitive impairment, dementia, and AD. And then they concluded these findings underscore the Mediterranean diet's potential as a central element in neuroprotective public health strategies. In addition to this kind of indicating that eating the Mediterranean, using the Mediterranean diet can help you with cognitive issues, what it really shows you is eating in general plays a role when it comes to cognitive health and when it comes to protecting your neurology. And I've always said this. In fact, I was just reading an article today that talked about the relationship between the gut and gut bacteria and cognitive disorders. Rates of dementia are expected to double in the next 40 years or so, 30 years or so by 2050. And this is kind of crazy when you think about it. The rates of degenerative disease in general are really skyrocketing, and especially neurological health issues. And when you think about it, look at how we eat. Look at our pretty much endemic, ubiquitous nutritional deficiencies. So this should be really very encouraging and inspiring for folks, because it means that we have so much control over these horrible diseases that seem like they're inevitable. So that's what the medical model tells us, is that these things are inevitable. And the only thing you do is interact with medicine, with pharmaceuticals, in order to take care of these horrible scourges like cancer, like diabetes, and certainly like Alzheimer's disease. And we all know that there's really nothing in the pharmacomedical model's bag of tricks that can help folks who are dealing with these neurological health issues, not to mention diabetes, not to mention cancer in most cases. So this should be very inspiring to all of us. Next slide there, my friend, Mr. Liam. Next one. Oh, no, this is good. The anti-inflammatory effects of the Mediterranean diet, a review. Pull it up just a little bit. Pull it up so you get this conclusion. Right there, summary. The physiologic mechanisms of action of this healthy diet pattern are becoming better understood to be multi-system and involving the gut, that is the digestive system. Although reflected in therapeutic guidelines for chronic disease management worldwide, there are individual clinical practice and health system barriers to the implementation that need a multi-sectorial approach to address. That's fancy schmancy's way of saying that people are resistant to using the Mediterranean diet, which is unfortunate. And the Mediterranean diet, if you're wondering now that you know how wonderful the Mediterranean diet is, if you want to know basically what it's about minimally processed foods. That's the most important thing about the Mediterranean diet. We subsist on something like 70% of our calories coming from not processed food, ultra processed food. So all of a sudden you eat the Mediterranean diet. The emphasis is not only on not ultra processed food, but not even processed foods, fresh, seasonal, local foods, especially healthy fats. Now, olive oil is a seed oil, and seed oils have a bad reputation, but the seed oils that are ingested locally in the Mediterranean area, and by the way, the Mediterranean soil is volcanic soil. It's very rich in minerals. So the plants, especially the olives that grow in the Mediterranean soil, is very, very mineral rich, and ultimately it's going to be nutrient rich too, because all the nutrients start off from minerals. So it's going to be all the produce that's grown in the Mediterranean area is grown in volcanic soil, and it's very, very rich in nutrition, unlike our nutrients here, which are mostly farmed by big corporations and utilize chemicals and pesticides, and they force the plant or the ground to grow, and consequently the antioxidants, the other nutrients in the plants are somewhat inhibited. Plants don't need to produce as much medicine when they have fertilizers and when they have pesticides. Many of the nutrients that are found in plants are actually in the plants to protect the plants from the environment. But when you have pesticides, the plant doesn't need to produce those. So plants that we enjoy here in this country are different from plants in the Mediterranean area. Nuts, seeds, avocados. Of course, there's also colored vegetables like tomatoes and spinach and bell pepper. Another thing about the Mediterranean diet is includes grains, bread and flour and pasta that come from grains that are different from the grains that we eat here. The grains and the flour that we eat and that we make our bread and our pasta out of and our carbs out of is of a different quality than the kind of grains and flour that is used in the Mediterranean diet. In fact, flour is a really big problem and probably an underappreciated problem. The processed flours that Westerners eat, containing rancid fats, containing bromine, containing bleaching agents. And we don't even think about that because all it says in the ingredient tag is flour. It doesn't say bleaching agents. It doesn't tell you what's in the flour. itself, not and then of course the rancid fats. The grains in the Mediterranean diet, locally grown grains, are of a different quality. And people who go to Italy and go to the Mediterranean countries often say that they can eat the pasta and the pizza and the grains and the flour, the bread, where they couldn't eat it when they were in this country because the flour is of a different quality. They also enjoy legumes as part of the Mediterranean diet, beans, lentils. Of course, seafood is big, fatty fish in particular. Red meat is eaten very, very sparingly. And one of the secrets of the Mediterranean diet is spices, basil, oregano. They're very spice rich, fresh spices. Of course, they also drink a little bit of wine. That probably has some medicinal effects. And there's also an interesting reaction that happens between olive oil and greens, vegetables. So when they make olive oil in their salad and they use olive oil dressing for their salads, there are nitrogen compounds that are released by the olive oil that are very, very beneficial and very healthy and have very important anti-aging and antioxidant properties. They drink a lot of water. And then also, of course, it's probably not, I don't know this for a fact, but I assume it's not fluoridated or chlorinated. Probably, I don't know if it's fluorinated or chlorinated water. Likely it's spring water. I don't know that. I don't know about that. And then they don't use a lot of sugar, although they do use some honey. So the Mediterranean diet is basically a diet that we should all aspire to. And it shouldn't even have the name Mediterranean. It's basically vegetables and fresh fruits and fresh foods and unprocessed foods. What are the health benefits? They're legion. Heart health benefits. It helps protect the heart against blood fats and cholesterol. Brain health benefits, which we talked about. Anti-inflammatory benefits, which we talked about. Anti-obesity benefits. Blood sugar control benefits. Helps regulate insulin. It's an ideal diet for folks who are dealing with blood sugar problems. But there's more. People talk about the heart health benefits. A lot of people know about the heart health benefits, but the Mediterranean diet is also very important for the microbiome. And we know that the intestine is the beginning of all disease or all health. Hippocrates said that, and we talk about that as the first point on the triangle of disease. Well, it turns out that the Mediterranean diet can be helpful for the gut microbiome. The fiber in the fruits and the veggies and legumes helps fuel and feed the bacteria in the microbiome. And there is research that actually shows that the Mediterranean diet can actually reshape the bacterial population in the gut bacteria or in the gut that helps support the digestive process and actually helps support neurology as well. There's a very important gut-brain axis that can benefit from the bacterial support, the microbiome support that the Mediterranean diet foods provides. Also, the diet can help regulate hormones, particularly insulin, which will then in turn help regulate testosterone. And women who have PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is partially related to excess testosterone, will benefit from the Mediterranean diet. And of course, the fiber and the antioxidants are very important for helping protect against excess estrogen, which is also a hormone problem that can cause things like fibromyalgia and fibroids and dysmenorrhea problems with your menstrual cycle, as well as infertility. So the Mediterranean diet can help with that as well. And then the brain effects also can help mood and mental health too. There are lots of omega-3 fats in the Mediterranean diet, both from the veggies as well as from the fish. And omega-3 fats are known to be very important for the brain. We talked about the anti-inflammatory benefits. Generally speaking, the Mediterranean diet is a great, great, great way to eat. We call it the Mediterranean diet because it was first discovered or first noticed that folks in the Mediterranean were enjoying these kinds of foods, but really it's the way we all should be eating. Good fats, unprocessed foods, very small amount of red meat, very small amounts of sugar, and then hopefully, it's hard to get the volcanic soil here, but hopefully you'll have crops that are grown in good quality soil under ideal conditions. Go organic, and I guess that's about as close as we can get in this country. Volcanic soil is known for being very rich, and it's really hard to duplicate. But crops grown in you're not going to get a lot of the benefits that the folks who enjoy foods that are grown in Mediterranean soils. We're not going to get those benefits, but by eating organic and by choosing your foods judiciously and eating as unprocessed as possible, we can simulate some of the facets of the Mediterranean diet and get a lot of the benefits. Seasonality is also an important part of the Mediterranean diet. Here in this country, we get foods, we get the same foods all year round. And that's not necessarily the best way to eat. Seasonality and local sourcing is really the best way to get your produce. And of course, in the Mediterranean, in that area, they do eat foods that are in season, ripe tomatoes and cucumbers in the summertime, and greens and legumes and root vegetables in the wintertime. So, that's another benefit of that's another way that the Mediterranean diet is more appropriate for overall health and well-being, the seasonality, which we don't really pay too much attention to in this country. But we could, if we select foods at the grocery store that are in, quote, in season, unquote. All right. Anything else? Let me see that I want to talk about the Mediterranean diet. No, it's just a great diet. I don't even like calling it the Mediterranean diet because it's just a great way to eat. But it was named by the famous or infamous Ansel Keys the Mediterranean diet back in the 70s, and we do call it that. Great way to eat, the Mediterranean diet. Thank you, folks in the Mediterranean. And thank you, Liam.
All right. That was, yes, outstanding. Ansel Keys.
Ansel Keys, yes.
Good. And I think that Joe thinks it was pretty cool.
Oh, we had somebody on the call here?
Joe says
Yalla.
Yalla.
What does that mean? Yalla. Yalla. I had a friend who used to say that. Joe must be Arabic, Mediterranean. Yalla.
Yeah, that's
Is that right, Joe?
Thank you for shouting out.
All right. So we'll see you on our next visit, Mr. Liam.
Yes.
Oops. I'll let you sign us off. Bye, everybody.
Take care, everyone. We'll see you next time.